Shannon, I appreciate you joining with Megan and myself today. Thanks for taking some time.
Yeah, thank you both for having me. Super excited to be here.
So we got to know each other. You were doing some really work, always had sights on practice ownership. That practice ownership came into fruition here in November of 2024. So you're three and a half months post acquisition. Before we get into that, I guess share with us what led you to practice ownership. Where were you previously? And was that kind of always top of mind or, what steered you in that direction?
Yeah, I think I wanted to be a veterinarian for so long, and not long after I realized my career at the small age of probably 6 years old, practice ownership wasn't too long to follow there. A lot of my family are already self-employed, not in the veterinary space and other ventures, but it was something that I had kind of grown up around. And, I wanted to do that too, be kind of up there with everybody else. And as I got older, it still was something that I saw a lot of opportunity and growth for and avenues for fulfillment outside of just medicine.
So did you not have, or did you lose that stigma of, coming out of school, you can't afford to buy a practice or, not now, it's way too soon. How were you able to put that behind you and still pursue an opportunity like this?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be very honest with everybody. I have almost $400,000 in student loans. I also own a home that is less than my student loans. So not saying that I don't have a lot of personal debt, and I still bought a seven-figure practice in real estate. So it's definitely possible. And I think the thing that people need to remember is you're buying a cash flowing asset, right? So the bank is going to look at your income after debt ratio, and it's going to make sure that this practice can cash flow and support you at your current basically cost of living. So as long as you can manage all your bills and the practice has enough money coming in to support all that, it's really a shoe-in for approval as long as you don't have a lot of personal credit card debt. I think if someone has a lot of personal loans or credit card debt, that might be a problem. I don't have any credit card or other debt. All I have is my house and my student loans and a car. I have a car loan as well, pretty average, but I would say as long as you have a good credit score and you're not loaded with credit card debt, you shouldn't have a problem buying a practice.
I think that's a huge point that people don't really realize, right? Because everyone's coming out, lots of people are coming out of school with lots of debt. And so it does feel overwhelming. But kudos to you for knowing your dreams and going early. How does it feel? So this has been your lifelong dream. Now you're here. Is it everything you wanted it to be?
Yeah, the transition has been a little stressful, a little bumpy. I never imagined my career would take exactly this route. Practice ownership was always my big goal, but I didn't know exactly how or when I would get there. So having it happen a little early was surprising, but in a good way. I think that it gives you more time to really manage your debt service and also really build the career that I want is at my fingertips. I can kind of mold my future how I would like it to be, which is really exciting. And yeah, I think just keeping your opportunities open, always keep your ear to the ground and see, what kind of opportunities might come your way. Relationships with different people might lead you in different directions. And it kind of just happened that way. I was always actively looking, but I wasn't necessarily looking at this particular place until it worked out that way.
Well, and now you're kind of the adult in the room, right? How does that feel?
Yeah, I am the adult in the room, which is interesting because I feel like it's similar to when you first graduate vet school and all of a sudden you're the doctor in the room. It's kind of a very similar feeling of like, oh no, now I'm the decision maker and people are listening to me for direction and real world, minute by minute, play by play advice. So it's definitely a new role and I'm learning how to fill those shoes. And I definitely have a good team around me to help. I think that's super important to have advisors in every different aspect because I'm a doctor first, even though I really am interested in the business side. That's not my highest area of expertise or training. So learning every day and really, acknowledging that I'm going to make mistakes and that it's okay and that I'm learning, but that doing it so early, I should be a lot better than I am now in 3, 5, 10 years from now.
What made you decide? Because obviously you can go the startup route, you can go the acquisition route. You went the acquisition route, but you had to have a list of criteria that was important to you, whether it be location, the look and feel of the building, the client base, any and all or combination. Did you have a parameter that made your decision to land at Harvard?
Yeah. So When I was doing relief, it actually was a really good way for me to get my market research. At the same time, I was traveling into all different clinics, private and corporate alike, and I could see a lot of different things about how a lot of different practices ran, what kind of software PIM systems did they use, how are their staff operating, what kind of flow do they have to the practice. I think that was super helpful before I purchased, even though the relief portion of my career was never something that I planned. That also kind of just fell into that, but it ended up setting me up really well for practice ownership. And I decided on acquisition because for me, the cash flow aspect of it was important. You know, having my student loans, owning a home already, like there's a certain level of financial security that I still wanted to find. So for me, a startup was less appetizing, I guess you could say, and a little bit more stressful. And I might have taken a little bit longer to do a startup rather than an acquisition that already allowed me to take a salary from that. So I could jump from relief to ownership a little bit easier. Although already being in relief and having a startup was something that I could probably do concurrently also and stay relief part-time and work in the startup part-time while you're building a clientele and a business. So I think that's also a route if someone's looking to do a startup, maybe transitioning to relief prior to versus leaving a steady clinic job might be a little bit more flexible for someone doing a startup. But for me, it was the need to have a good cash flow so that I could really jump in and be 100% committed was important.
So I know you're brand new, right? 4 months is not a lot of time to get your feet underneath you, but have you learned any great life lessons, any takeaways, anything you would have done differently up to this point?
Have a really good attorney. I had a really good one, and I'm so grateful for him. I feel like having, and specifically an attorney who specializes in like veterinary type transactions. He is in a different part of the country from me, which I didn't find as a problem and it really didn't matter, but he was so familiar with these types of purchases that he would point out little things or edit our documents to kind of include items that he found were important in the other transactions that he had already been through. And he had worked with, my loans ended up being with Bank of America and their practice finance solutions, but he had gone through a lot of different banks. Bank of America was a bank he was really familiar with because they have divisions all over the country. So I think that was the biggest thing for me. It was like try having someone that I could say, you know, is this normal? Are we on pace? What do I do about this? They're asking for this. What should we do? So he was a really good sounding board for everything. Sean Wood was my attorney. He's actually out of Utah. So I'll give him a little shout out there because he was really awesome. And I'm really thankful for him throughout the whole process. He made it so easy and very personable to talk to, which was really important to me. I wanted a team around me that I can joke with and like have a good time with, even through stressful moments. So that was really awesome. And also having a good financial management team as well, having Granite Peak to kind of go through the finances and make sure that the practice I was looking at was actually worth the amount of money that they're asking for. They had good reviews for like who I should use for different things, who I should reach out to for different purchase items throughout the whole process. So making sure that you have trusted people to kind of help navigate your transaction was really important. Something that I would change is to not do it at the end of a fiscal year, if you can do, because that was a little ridiculous. But I bought like 3 days before Thanksgiving, so I don't think I remember the holiday season. It's kind of all a blacked out blur with
It's like
everything.
the ultimate Black Friday shopping, right?
Yes, the ultimate Black Friday purchase that I did not get a great discount on, but I paid fair market value for my Black Friday shopping. But yeah, I would recommend to do it a little bit, maybe like late summer, early fall. Give yourself a little bit more time for tax planning and everything else because I had to close out my relief entity and do all the taxes for my relief entity myself and the new 2 business entities. So it's been a lot, and that's one of the things I've been navigating, but it's working out okay. We made it.
It is a lot. And every process takes, 7 acquisitions go smooth in 45 days. Talk to us more about how long was it from the time you showed interest to put it pen to paper? What did that all look like time frame wise?
It was about 13 months because how it happened for me is I actually approached these owners as a relief doctor with the intent in mind that I was interested in buying the practice. So kind of under the radar, I started working there as relief. And what happened is they got their taxes for 2023 done in early 2024. And then we started collecting all the documents, started getting a really good idea of what the financial status of the practice was. And then kind of worked through that. And then I reached out to a few banks, went with Bank of America. They got my personal approval. And this was maybe May or June when I got that approval. And we had a little bit of back and forth. The real estate was actually our biggest hang up because there was a little back and forth on pricing or regards to how to get an evaluation. But we ended up having to get the bank evaluation and we had to agree on a number before all of that. So that was a hot mess. The real estate portion was really the rate limiting step in all of this. And that's what actually we were supposed to close around Halloween, and having the real estate portion in there kind of bumped back everything about a month. But I'm glad I still got the building. It was worth the bump back, a little extra stressful there. But yeah, it ended up being about 13 months for me initially showing interest to purchasing it, but it also gave me time to get familiar with the clinic and the team so that it was less of a big change for everybody to have me there all the time. So I thought that was nice.
Did you have a welcome to ownership moment, like your first full staff meeting or something where it sank in and said, yeah, this is mine and this is kind of where we're headed?
Yeah. And even the first day when I had to switch over the payment terminals and make sure that all the money was going into my bank account instead of theirs. Yeah, I don't think I really fully had it set in until our first staff meeting a couple weeks later. But yeah, it kind of didn't feel real at first. I had to put a down payment on the building and I gave them a nice big chunk of money, which was terrifying. And it kind of got that pit in your stomach, like, oh boy, can't take this back now. Here we go. But yeah, it was a little surreal at first. And then we had all the accounts switching over and everything was changing. So yeah, it was a little bit of a whirlwind.
I think as expected, right? If things went smoothly, it wouldn't be the same.
Yeah. No, I think it would be too easy and more people would do it if it was that easy. But it was fun. There's just a lot of there's so many accounts. I think that's
Everything, right?
that was the theme. Was like, why do we have an account? Why do we need another account for this? But yeah, everyone needs the new entity and the EIN and all the information and the new tax documents and all of that stuff and switching our buying group over. So every single account had to be switched over. And I swear we have at least 50 or 60 accounts that we use on a monthly basis to get everything settled. So now we have all of that, which is lovely.
They'll find you, right? If you didn't switch them over, they'll figure it out.
Yeah. The biggest ones were the ones we have to order a lot of our medical supplies from, and everything else fell in line after that. And then getting the new payroll up started. The practice already had a 401k, so everyone switched to my 401k plan. I decided to make a new one because of all the legalities and everything of kind of running a retirement plan, just like I did new entities for the business and the building for legal reasons and protections. I also did a new 401k plan as well, so that you're basically not liable for anything that previous owners or participants did with moving money or tax liability or anything like that. It's a whole fresh slate, which is what I really enjoy. But some of that had some delays and functional issues and communication things. So all that gets ironed out. But yeah, it makes a little extra work, but that's okay.
So I know that hasn't been your favorite part. What's been, though, your favorite part of practice ownership?
Being able to, if I want a new thing that I'm going to use all the time and dispense all the time to my clients, I just ask my wonderful practice manager to order that for me and I can start using it immediately. I kept all of our vaccines the same. We use the same lab, but I was able to negotiate some different packages there. So I have a lower barrier to entry now with our wellness blood work. So I'm really proud of that. I lowered some of the pricing on our preventions to be more competitive with online retailers because I wanted to really get a value for our clients there. So a lot of the things that were really important to me that I could implement and start really kind of working on a culture and a clinic that I really enjoy. And I think Jared mentioned this earlier, did you look for a certain image of a clinic, and it had to look a certain way. And I think if I waited for a clinic that looked exactly the way I wanted to, I never would have found one. It would have probably been a de novo in order to get there.
Right.
But I'm okay with a little ugly duckling that'll someday emerge as a swan.
You'll glow up, right? That's
Yes.
it costs less in the long run.
Yeah, and you get to do it yourself, and you get a little bit of pride doing that over the long term and getting to build it as you want.
And you hit on a good point, because I don't think a lot of whether you're a startup or an acquisition, realize the opportunity you have in vendor negotiations day one, because you're starting everything. Like you said, new LLC, new EIN. How did those conversations go? Are they challenging with some of the vendors? Was it easy to kind of negotiate some of the things that you truly wanted for your practice?
So the seller had a contract with their lab. They have IDEX already, so I kind of had to assume their contract. There's a little bit of bumps in there with, like, I didn't get all of the same discounts, but I got some other ones. It was a little bit weird, but I have a requirement to fulfill the rest of their lab contract. So we did that. And then, yes, I got to do a lot of the new clinic programs. The MWI one wasn't a ton, but it was something. We use Zoetis a lot right now, and we bought about 6 months worth of vaccines. So my ending 2024 inventory was slightly scary number there, but because I had like an extra 6 months of vaccines, which was like, whoops. But I got 2024 pricing on 6 months of my vaccines. So that kind of evens out that a little bit, which was awesome. And then we did a few other new clinic programs. So we're really looking into those. You can get a good deal on especially vaccines, a lot of injectables and tablets that you use from different manufacturers. A lot of times they're outside of the big distributors. You go directly to the clinic, the manufacturer themselves, and a lot of times you have a 6 months too. So we did the ones that we use the most, like Zoetis and MWI, and then we have a couple other ones that I can still use, and we have a few months to really get into those and purchase those, because I didn't want to have a huge bill with everything right now, but usually they have a little bit of delayed billing for the new practice purchases anyway, so I just pay a little bit every month to finally get there. When we're done with everything, I'll be paying off the remainder.
Made all really good, smart decisions. This is good advice, I think, for everybody looking to, the things that they can't do it or they need to wait. But what does the next 5-10 years look like? More practices?
TBD. I guess I'll keep you guys updated. Yeah, any other relevant questions, I'm very more than welcome to answer. But in the next 5 to 10 years, there might be another practice in store, but I would like to beautify the one I have first, or at least concurrently. We need a new parking lot really bad, so that's in the next 6 to 18 months goal, to repave the parking lot. And then the way the building works right now, either we'd put an addition on or look for a different location and kind of, work out of there and renovate, or I don't know. There's so many options about renovating, but I would like to renovate front half of the clinic, especially at some point in the next few years. And then 5 to 10 years from now, I guess it'll really depend on what our growth looks like, what our team looks like. If we have the ability to do some expansion, I am looking for doctors, especially right now, part-time or full-time, to join the team, which is really exciting. So it depends on what doctors want to come on board, if they're interested in general practice or more urgent care, or what kind of services we can offer. I'm really interested in getting some advanced imaging as well. We already have ultrasound and x-ray, but looking at more of a CT for dentistry and other imaging modalities and purposes there, really incorporating a lot of telespecialty to really provide a lot of in-house services as well is really exciting. So yeah, I don't know exactly what the future holds, but I do have quite a few dreams and ideas. So we'll have to see how that turns out. It's just, I find that having a pointed yet open goal has been really helpful. Like practice ownership has been a really big goal. So maybe my next goal will be either another practice or a highly expanded practice into multi-specialty. That really kind of gives a room for what life will bring ahead, and to never really turn down an opportunity or a conversation, because you never know what that might lead you to.
I love that your short-term planning includes a new parking lot, right? Like I used to like shop for shoes and purses, and then you get a house, you get a business, and now you're like, now I need a parking lot. It's just
Yes.
a whole new ballgame.
Yes, yes. And I'm very lucky that my fiance is in the construction realm and he's done everything from building homes to renovating businesses to doing commercial parking lots, actually. So he's an amazing resource to have along for the ride, which is great. So he deals with a lot of that stuff for me. I'm super thankful for that. But yeah, buying a new parking lot instead of, looking at a new car, it's fine.
We always like to wrap these up with asking, if you had one piece of advice or words of wisdom for others in practice. I mean, we just play this back a couple minutes. I think you just gave a lot there, but is there anything else that, by far is the biggest pearl that you have that you want to share with other doctors in the space, either getting into ownership who are already in ownership?
Yeah, I think if it's something you want to do or you're interested in, definitely try to get as much education and information on what that actually means to you. Look at getting some HR, some business management, CE. Really try to get as much education, read a lot of books that aren't even veterinary related. There's a lot of business management, kind of different business books that you can get to, or even kind of how you communicate with people. Like the one that pops in my head right now is Radical Candor. That's a really good book to read on how to just communicate with others more effectively and more honestly, but being also kind with your words. Things like that. And that, I was a new grad who left her first job right about the 1 year mark. That's some ridiculous statistic that, like, I don't know, over half or whatever veterinarians leave their first job after a year. And that was never my original plan. My original plan was to actually stay at this place until I either, it was independent, so until I could either buy that one or find a different one that I bought. But life takes a different turn. I ended up buying a house and I left my first job 3 months after buying a house and kind of fell into relief, which I had been dabbling a little bit into before I left my first job as like a side income. And when I left my job, I had that opportunity to kind of go more into relief. It was really booming around here at that time. So it just kind of happened. And I was like, all right, sure, let's do that. Because I had a little bit of PTSD from leaving my first clinic. So having some more autonomy and more time to myself really helped with that. And then I got to know a lot of people in the area, a lot of different clinics, did a lot of my research in the industry in my area. And then one of the places that I looked at doing relief ended up being the practice that I purchased. So definitely keep your eyes and ears open, look for opportunities in your local area, talk to people all the time, all your reps, different area managers. You never know who has an inner ear about something that's going on or someone looking to transition, or reach out to single doctor practices that you know in your area that are maybe looking to retire. I think a lot of people are really looking for a vet to carry on their legacy. So kind of finding that and having a practice that you can cash flow early is really nice, that I don't have to worry about kind of some of the startup stress. But I do also have a team that, I've had to transition into new ownership, which has its own challenges as well. So they can both be challenging, but I think ultimately rewarding, and the ability to really mold your future and have a real driver's seat in that for me has been the biggest benefit and opportunity for the future, that I can kind of bring it wherever I want to bring it, as as well as we can do. I'm probably open to however things end up unfolding. I'm really excited.
Well, hey, we're excited to have a front row seat for that, to witness that continued growth and expansion that you'll have, and really appreciate all the time today with Megan and myself here. So thank you for sharing your story, your message. I think it's going to be very well received from everyone who listens.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. And if someone wants to follow me directly, they can find me on Instagram or LinkedIn at Dr. Shannon DVM. You can also put my email below if you'd like, drshannondvm@gmail.com. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that anyone might have about ownership or getting into ownership. It might take me a few days to respond to you, so if we don't get an answer right away.
Or their resumes there too, right?
Yes, you can also submit your resumes to my email as we're looking to expand the team. Word of mouth is always great. If we have, mutual connections, I always love That actually, a couple of the hires that I made on the technician side have been referrals. So that's really awesome. So if anyone listening knows of anyone looking for a position or someone completely new, it would be lovely to have you. So
Outstanding practice here in Massachusetts. So again, thanks, Shannon, for the time, and appreciate it.
awesome. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.